Having tea is quite the English ritual, although I'm not sure it's adhered to as much as years gone by. Promptly at 10 a.m., noon, and 3 p.m., tea would be served. It was frowned upon if you missed the call to tea. The invention of tea bags was actually the work of a couple from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, around 1908. The use of tea bags was thought to be barbaric by British standards for trying to replace the traditional use of loose tea leaves in a ceramic pot. The tea was then strained into porcelain cups with tiny, delicate handles. It was not uncommon for some tea leaves to escape from being strained. Being an only child, my tea was heavily fortified with cream and sugar. I'm not sure that I was a big fan of the piping hot beverage, but I certainly looked forward to the digestibles served with the tea. In America, we'd call them biscuits. My favorites were the chocolate ones. Those reliable tea times always brought family and friends together. They were the stage for great laughter, gossip, and the reading of letters from relatives many kilometers away. Having the ritual of tea brought stability to my life when Mum was confined to the mental asylum. My whole world consisted of gathering eggs, playing in the fields and woods, reading my books, and adding peat moss to the stove. The man I called grandfather was actually my grandmother's brother. He was a tall, thin chap with a receding hairline, bushy eyebrows and moustache, and an impressively long Romanesque nose from which he often peered down upon with disfavor. His hands were weathered, rough and gnarled from years of working on the farm. Without fail, he wore faded blue overalls over a grey cardigan. He had a massive red handkerchief protruding from his right pocket that was used constantly for his chronic nasal drip. He was never unkind towards me, but I quickly realized that it only took a stern glance from those blue, steely eyes to cease and desist whatever mischief I was getting myself into. Shouting and threats of harm never occurred. By the age of 4, I trusted all adults. Then there was the postmaster. There were the occasional whispers about him over tea, but I was too young to put the bits together in order to get a clear picture. The post, what we call mail here, was delivered twice a day by the postman on his bike. I would always run out to greet him as he was regular as clockwork. Occasionally, he would give me a much-treasured sweet and a pat on the head before heading off to the next cottage. One hot summer day, I was playing in the woods, but not far from the cottage, when he seemingly appeared out of nowhere. He led me to a shadowed area behind the barn. Was he going to give me an extra sweet or a special letter? I had no idea. Then, with him on his knees, he started to fiddle with my knickers. How odd, I thought. He hadn't gotten very far when Grandad rounded the corner and immediately sized up the situation. I was told to run to the house and stay there. One did not disobey Grandad, and in this instance, he looked quite fearsome. So off I ran, not at all aware of the meaning of what had just transpired. This incident was not discussed at 3 o'clock tea. I may have been a bit miffed that I didn't get any candy from the postman, though. I have no recollections of seeing Dad in England. Not one. What I'm told much later is that Dad was funny and had the gift of gab. He could charm the socks off the surliest of locals, of which there were many, due to just having endured a horrific war. Inflation was high, and even the most basic necessities were costly. Everyone, except for the pub keeper, suffered mightily trying to make ends meet. American servicemen were treated as heroes at first, then slightly downgraded to being tolerated as time went on. This attitude was based on the glaring cultural differences between, say, a local farmer and a smug young man who hailed from the Bowery. The Brits were perplexed by the unpretentious brashness and loudness of the Americans. Were all Americans this way? I'm sure the Americans were equally as befuddled by the staidly reserved and stoic Brits. However, the Americans could be relied upon to spend their money freely, which kept the local village from collapsing economically altogether. In the next episode, I'll talk about the transition to America.